My name is Nicholas Davis. I'm the senior producer of Metro Morning at CBC Radio 99.1 FM here in Toronto. What I'm basically responsible for is deciding what goes on the show on a day-to-day basis. Metro Morning is a 3-hour current affairs radio program that runs during the drive into work time on local radio here in Toronto. It runs from 5:30 in the morning to 8:30 in the morning, and I'm just basically the guy who decides in the end what gets on the air and what doesn't. CBC Radio is supposed to in all of its local regions reflect the regions and the communities that it serves. And there was a time when we didn't believe or feel that we at CBC Radio here, locally anyways, were reflecting the city we live in. We live in Toronto here, one of the most diverse cities in the world, one of the most multicultural cities in the world. And there was times prior to when we started to change the format, when we listened to the show and thought, could you tell if you didn't live in this city? If you just came here visiting Toronto and you turned on the radio, you listened to 99.1, did you feel you lived in one of the most diverse cities in the world? Did you feel like this show sounded like Toronto is one of the most diverse cities in the world? And the answer resoundingly was no. So we felt that then we're not doing our mandate as a national broadcaster, as a public broadcaster, which is to sound like the communities that we serve. And we were serving a very multicultural and a very diverse community, and we decided we need to do a better job of reflecting that on the airways. To make that happen, we had to decide what were the story choices we were making, who were making the story choices, and who decided in the end what was going to be on the air, what wasn't going to be on the air. And then we also had to bring different people to the table just on who the on-air personalities were. So one of the things we did, right off the top was we said, okay, what we need to do is find out how we can bring different characters on the show who actually reflected some of the diversity in the city. So we went about trying to find, columnists on the show. We brought in a food columnist who was a Korean woman. We brought in a parenting columnist who was an older, a woman in her mid-30s at the time, now in her early 40s. We brought in a music columnist who's South Asian descent. We brought in a film reviewer who's native Indian. We made a conscious effort to try and bring in people at the table who came from different communities, who brought different perspectives to the show, and who actually were actually professional broadcasters as well. I mean, we just didn't want to put anybody on there. They had to actually be professional broadcasters. And so we actually went and seeked out these people. And living in Toronto, I mean, it took some work to find these people, but the talent existed in the city because the city is so diverse and so multicultural. So we actually found the talent. We also had to decide who's at our own table making decisions, right? So whenever there's an opportunity to fill a position, we strategically tried to fill that position with somebody who came from a diverse community or a diverse background, or somebody who could bring a different perspective to the table. And over the course of the change period that we tried to change Metro Morning, and I'm talking over the course of 8 years now. It's been since 2002 when we first made our changes. You're talking about, we probably have a staff that is as reflective, of the community we serve now, as well as as probably any show in the city, right? We have a South Asian, we have a Chinese, we have a Korean, we have someone British, we have Canadian, we have Jamaican, we have everything you can think of at the table making decisions, picking stories, right? And that helps. And you bring in different voices to decide what stories you're going to choose. They also choose different stories than we're used to getting because they come from different places. And now the challenge was trying to make sure these stories are relevant to everybody who lives in the city of Toronto. And that's just the way in which we tried to change the show and make it sound like the city we lived in. I mean, it wasn't always easy. It was very difficult at times because people were ready for change. Like, we added music to the show, which was for some bizarre reason really, really controversial, right? Because it used to be all talk. And they're like, well, what are you adding music for? Well, we added music because music was also another way of just giving listeners a break from the relentlessness of just talk. And also is another way of showcasing the diversity of the city, and just the musical diversity of the city, right? Another way of showcasing, what kind of great talent we have in the city who would never get an opportunity to hear their music anywhere else other than, you're not playing them on the mainstream stations, so their music was being played on our stations and on Metro Morning. And that also helped us too in reflecting the diversity within our own city. Well, the other successes we had from changing the show, I mean, don't get me wrong. There's other challenges too, other than just trying to find people to make the choices and just trying to get buy-in from our what we call our traditional listeners of CBC Radio. But in the end, what people want are good stories. And I think in the end, as long as you keep giving them good stories and that are tied to the agenda of the day, people will listen. But when you do the things we did, which is change the makeup of the people at the table and make sure those people reflect the community we serve. Change the makeup of the people who make decisions on the show and reflect the community that we serve. What you end up happening is that, from a statistic point of view, we in 2002. When we started this process, from then to now, we've been #1 in the ratings 21 times. And that was unheard of. The first time we became #1 was in 2003, in December of 2003, and we've had 21 #1 ratings after that. And so if that doesn't show people that there's actually some value in doing it, and this is from in 2003, was the first time CBC Radio locally here in Toronto, Metro Morning was ever #1 in the Toronto market. It's one of the most competitive radio markets in the country. And it was the first time ever. To do it 21 times just speaks to, what I think is the reason why we're #1. And the audience we grew was basically 25 to 45 or 25 to 49. And those in this city, from Statistics Canada shows you that group of people are probably the most diverse people in the city too. They make up a lot of the diversity in the city, and so you have to assume that you're growing diversity, and that's why the station went to #1. And it's just been a great journey for us in terms of seeing that. It makes us, kind of hopeful that we can continue on the journey. The job's not done, right? We still got a long way to go to be perfect, but at least we feel we're heading in the right direction. Because it's not easy. I can understand fully why other broadcasters don't do it. I'm not trying to say that they haven't tried. I'm not trying to judge them for not doing it either. I think, it's a choice that we had to make, and it was a risky choice, right? And it worked out for us, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to work out for everybody, because you have to find the right people, and that's not easy. We made a concerted effort to go look for those people, and we put a lot of resources into trying to find those people. We put a lot of resources into getting people to understand, that this was important, that there's absolutely a monetary case you can make, a financial case you can make for being more diverse. And you either buy in or you don't buy in, right? And I'm not saying other people haven't bought in, but it's not an easy journey, because you can try it and you can alienate your audience, your core audience, which could kill you, right? And you may not be able to get them back. And, and I think some people actually think, can we do it as well as CBC? And maybe they can't, right? I'm not trying to judge them for it, but I understand that it was a very difficult process for us, and I can imagine it's not a road that a lot of people would want to travel down unless they were very confident that the results would, be in their favor. And I don't know if you can say confidently that would happen. The process can be done because the city's evolving and it changes all the time. And if your goal is to reflect the city you serve, then you have to reflect it. And then also we recognize that, right? And so of course we're gonna. And I don't think we're nowhere near where we need to be. If we had to go scale from 1 to 100. I don't think we're at 100 yet. In terms of making the right choices and the right changes to make our show truly reflective of the city we serve. But we've done a very good job of it, and I think our numbers speak to that. The number of times we've been #1 in the market speaks to that. But we still have a long way to go. I'd say there's still a lot of growth that we can do in terms of being a lot more reflective. We live in a city they're saying by 2015, more than 50% of the population is going to be visible minority. Are we there yet on our staff? Are we there yet on our story choices? No. Can we get there? Yes. Are we striving to get there? Yes. But you have to do it in the context of, are you getting the right people, the right journalists, make sure they're capable of doing the job. And so those, we still have a ways to go in that regards. But but we are doing a great job in terms of trying our best to reflect the city we live in.